Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We have a special guest tonight. Joining us from Wisconsin, Josh Bilicki.
What's up, guys? I appreciate you guys having me on. As you can see, I'm at my racing rig simulator. I've been doing a lot of iRacing, so yeah, appreciate you guys having me on.
Disappointed that you're not wearing your driver's suit.
Yeah. How do I know you're a race car driver? Yeah. You just look like a guy with a suit.
You don't. You don't. Actually, yeah, I should have worn my simulator or my suit. I dropped the ball on that, but yeah, right now I'm just want to be a race car driver, I guess.
Yeah, we did a podcast last week, came out today about commercials, like racing commercials, and the number one theme is the guy has to be in his racing suit or no one knows he's a race car driver. That's the number one theme. So
that's true. It doesn't surprise me.
Have you ever had to go to like appearances or anything like that where it's like that's probably a stipulation where it's like, can you wear your suit so people know that you're the race car driver?
Yeah, I have. Sometimes, you know, it's a little awkward for me, but it's cool. I've also been on the opposite side where, like Daytona is a perfect example. Like, I've been coaching in the sports car world, and my client just won't take off his suit, and he'll go to Chick-fil-A with his race suit on, and you know, everybody asks, "Oh, are you a race car driver? Are you a race car driver?" So yep. I've seen both ends. I've seen both angles, and you know, from the marketing standpoint, I definitely get it. You know, you would not be able to tell, you know, if somebody saw me for the first time right now, I probably had no idea I'm a race car driver. If I was wearing a suit, that'd be a different story. So I get it for sure.
It's all good.
Yeah, that's such a sports car thing. Like the whole gotta wear the team gear all the time at the airport. So people hopefully ask me about it. I don't know if you follow Generic Racer on like Twitter.
Oh, I do.
Oh man, it's just so true if you work in racing.
It is. But you know, at the same time, it's cool to see sometimes because I've connected with people at airports and things wearing racing apparel. And I mean, even 2 or 3 years ago, I was flying to California, okay, after my NASCAR career already started, and I got out of sports car racing. I get off the plane, and I see a guy wearing a Lexus Motorsports shirt. I'm like, all right, who's this? It's Scott Pruitt, just standing right there. So he had no idea who I was. I introduced myself, but, you know, if he wasn't wearing his Lexus Motorsports apparel, I probably wouldn't have recognized him. But I looked at him, and I told him what I was doing there, and, you know, I told him a quick 2-3 minute story of my background, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Scott's an awesome guy. I met Scott at the Rolex 24 this year. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah, he is, and it's cool to see him still involved in motorsports, even though he's not actually driving behind the wheel in races. He's still very heavily involved.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of racing, like obviously there's no racing right now, which is unfortunate, but iRacing is now the king. It's on Fox, it's on NBC, and you guys are doing it 12, 14 hours a day. So tell us about iRacing and kind of like, when did you first get into iRacing?
Yeah, so I got into iRacing about probably 6 or 7 years ago now. It had already been out for probably 6 or 7 years, and I knew it was a tool I could use to basically just keep my skills in check. At the time, I was only racing Spec Miata and SCCA, so I was only racing at most 7 or 8 times a year. And, you know, I wanted to race every weekend, every day I could. So I thought, you know, what the heck, I'll build myself a simulator setup and I'll get iRacing. I also play Gran Turismo a lot. So with the wheel and pedals, it adds a different element. But as soon as I got into iRacing, I realized that the physics in iRacing are just top of the level. You know, Gran Turismo is cool. Gran Turismo has a lot of cars. You know, especially the new ones, the graphics are insane. But, you know, iRacing has stepped it up. The graphics on iRacing are incredible. The physics, like I said, are just top notch. So, you know, since then I've upgraded my setups, got better wheels, better pedals, and yeah, so I just spend a lot of time on iRacing now. It's a really good tool to keep my skills in check when I actually can't be behind the wheel of a race car. Even when racing season is going on, it's good for me to get on the simulator before, you know, say we're going to Texas or say we're going to Sonoma, you know, a track I've only been to a couple times. It's good for me to get on in a cup car, NASCAR Cup car, and just log laps at Sonoma and pick up reference points, brake points, throttle location, you know, where I pick up the throttle. And, you know, it's just a really good tool that you can do from home.
Yeah, and speaking of reference points, so I was going to ask you, like, coming from sports cars and now NASCAR, so in sports cars, you'd go on a track walk with your engineer and you'd look at things, do that.
Yeah.
Does that ever happen in NASCAR?
No, it doesn't. And really funny story you asked that. So one of my first times ever at a bigger NASCAR track was at Atlanta Motor Speedway in 2017, early 2017. So I made my debut in NASCAR in 2016. in 2017, my first time ever being on a mile and a half. So I get to Atlanta Motor Speedway Thursday night. It's already late. It's just me and a buddy from Wisconsin. We drive down, and I wanted to walk the track. I figured, I can do this in sports car racing. I could go to Road America, walk the track if I wanted to. I got clearance from a couple people, so we walked the track, and we're halfway down the back straightaway, and the main security guy comes and starts just ripping us a new one, basically saying, "Who let you out on track? You guys can never be on track. I don't know who you are. You're claiming you're a driver, and I have no idea who you are." So basically, I was afraid I was going to get kicked out for the whole weekend. As soon as he found out I actually was driving the very next day, he kind of laid low and took a tone down. But that was my first time where I ever really got in trouble. So ever since then, I've never walked a track in NASCAR. It definitely would help at certain places, especially the road courses, especially some of the new some of the tracks when they first pave them, or even like Bristol when they put down the PJ1, the sticky stuff. It would really help to walk the track, but it's just kind of frowned upon, and more people would rather just go out there and feel it out instead of actually taking the time to walk.
It's kind of weird because, like, in short track racing, they that element is there. Like, people physically go out and inspect where their line is, or where a bump is, or a groove can be, or where the rubber is, or even that PJ1 that they lay down there. So it's kind of weird how it doesn't go to the top level there.
Yeah, it is weird. The only place I've actually seen top drivers do it, and I could be wrong here, but I've seen people do that at Bristol because, it's so easy to walk around Bristol. But even other tracks like Phoenix, I've tried walking Phoenix my first time there, and basically I got told no. So I think unless you're a top driver, maybe Kyle Busch or some of those guys, you probably could get away with it, but I don't think the small guys like us can. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Oh, that's not fair. We'll have to work on that. So
yes.
So you can go track walking. Because I think even if you wanted to walk the track at like Watkins Glen, you wouldn't be able to do it without just fans chirping you constantly. There's so many people there. I walked it for IMSA, and the guys were getting chirped like crazy, and there was like half as many people.
Yeah, and I think if somebody saw a guy like Kyle Busch or Jimmy Johnson walking the track, you'd have fans just being obnoxious. And Jimmy and Kyle or whoever it is out track probably might not even be able to actually experience what they want to experience and learn what they want to learn, because they'd probably just be overwhelmed with fans, screaming their name or saying something stupid. So I get it, but at the same time, it would be nice to even just have a golf cart or something. But even golf carts, they're frowned upon at tracks.
Yeah. So speaking of iRacing, now we have to ask you the obligatory iRacing question. What's your rig setup?
So my rig setup, I wish I could show you guys. I can send you guys a quick video after this if you guys want to integrate this. But so I have a really basic Logitech G25 base. So this thing is over 10 years old.
Yeah.
I put a steering wheel on. I made my own bracket right here. You can kind of see that. So the steering wheel is pretty basic. The paddle still. There's no buttons on the steering wheel. So when I'm playing and I need to talk to somebody, push to talk, I got to press the space bar. So I'll eventually upgrade that, but for now it works really well. I have upgraded pedals, which they're Fanatec. They're really stiff, just like real race cars. The brake pedal is really stiff. And then I have an 8-speed shifter, which is kind of a pain in the butt because it is an 8-speed. And when I drive a lot of these stock cars, I use it, just the 4-speed. But my setup, I actually was given to me by a sponsor. I'd probably guess maybe just shy of probably $5,000 total setup. And, I have two TVs now. One I use for streaming because I've been streaming a lot of races, and I just have the base the base TV right ahead of me. But a lot of guys you see now have motion simulators or they have triple screens. Mine's probably on the low end. It's not Timmy Hill low end. Timmy just has steering wheel and pedals hooked up to his desk, which is I gave him all the props in the world. But then you go to the opposite spectrum. Denny Hamlin, basically it looks like a full-size car in his house. So it's cool because no matter what setup you have, I think Timmy Hill has proven this. You can go out there and be competitive. And even Ty Majeski, Ty Majeski's probably even on a lower level than Timmy Hill. His setup is just a little tiny laptop and his Logitech G27, and he's one of the fastest iRacers in the world. So it's really cool. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can be competitive.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because we were talking about this the other day. Actually, a few episodes ago, we were speaking specifically on setups because I have my setup and, I like it, but I have one of the Fanatec motors. It's a little stronger. It's not like the D engine, the direct drive, but it's like just a step down from that. And sometimes, having that extra competitive advantage doesn't really, or that feel doesn't give you that competitive advantage really on the track. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. And it's, kind of speak to that because like you have the G25 wheel. It's such like you said, an older model, and Logitech's made other models now, but is obviously not an obsolete base for anybody trying to get into this.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and I've had a couple of friends, in the last month or two ask me where they can find pedals and wheels. And, I just myself go on Facebook Marketplace and I'll send people links. But, I found Logitech G25s, G27s, G29s for, under $200. So, if somebody really wanted to get into this, obviously they'd have to have a computer that could run iRacing. But, they could be into iRacing for well under, $750, which in my opinion isn't bad. I bought my computer for around $500 just a couple of months ago, actually, because I had a slow computer that didn't handle iRacing really well. So, it doesn't take much to be into it. It's not going to cost you $25. Like you can go to Best Buy and buy a video game. But at the same time, you are paying for what you get, which is the most accurate racing simulator in the world.
Yeah, I heard Sebastian Bourdais say that he just went to Best Buy before everything shut down and bought like a gaming laptop for $600, a wheel, and then ordered some pedals online, and it just bolted to a desk, and his whole setup was $1,200.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Right, and he's like, that's fine. He's like, a real person can do that, so it's a little bit more, people can actually relate to it. Then he just plugs it into his TV because he doesn't have a computer monitor, and I'm like, well, it's not bad.
Not bad. He's competitive.
Yeah, I don't have iRacing. I have played it on James's simulator on Tampa, and I was not great. But the more I watch, the more I consider it because I'm like, man. But I feel like it's a deep rabbit hole I could get down and spend way too much money on and way too much time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are a lot of similarities between iRacing and real life. But just like real life, it takes time to skill and to get really good at iRacing. Even top tier drivers can jump on and they won't be quick right away. It does take time and skill. But yeah, I mean, somebody like myself who, obviously I use it as a tool. I spend a lot of time on it, and especially these past couple of weeks, months. I've been on it a lot, just honing my skills, and I do feel like I'm learning new things.
Yeah, I'm just going to stick to like Project Cars because I can just plug it in and just be fast at Le Mans my first day if I want, and prefer that.
As long as you're having a good time, that's all that matters.
Exactly. So with all the iRacing you're doing, like I've noticed you're doing a lot of IndyCar stuff. And how has that been, like doing the IndyCar stuff?
It's been awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've been really trying to be diverse. My background is sports car racing. For the longest time, I wanted to go IndyCar racing, before my career in NASCAR. And it just wasn't feasible, not having much funding behind me and not much sponsorship either. It just didn't make logical sense. So it is really cool that iRacing has, obviously IndyCars on it. And, for me to be able to race with guys like James Hinchcliffe, Joseph Newgarden, Will Power, all those guys, it's really cool. And I've been doing a lot of IndyCar races, like you said, and a lot of them have been ovals, but even I joined Joseph Newgarden a couple of weeks, last week actually at Suzuka. That was only about a second off his lap time, which I didn't think was terrible. I was still, I think, top 10 in the room out of 60 people. Had a Tony Kanaan and some guys who were really well known. So I just love racing everything I can on iRacing. Just earlier today I was on Road Atlanta with a Formula 3 car with James Davison and Stephen Wilson. So yeah, I just try to get on whatever I can, whether it's NASCAR, whether it's sprint cars, which I'm not very good at yet, at IMSA, GT Le Mans cars, to obviously the NASCARs I've been racing with the eNASCAR races. So it's really cool that NASCAR and puts those on, but at the same time it's fun to race with people from different disciplines. Even like Ron Capps, Top Fuel, funny car drag what would you call him, a drag racer. It's cool to race with him and people you never really think you'd be able to race with, you're racing with. So it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think that's the coolest thing about iRacing. Think about the connectivity you have with anybody that's out there, and you also think about the pandemic has kind of brought more people together on that platform. Since you've started kind of during this time, who are some of the people that stand out to you, or like your favorites, or just memorable battles you've had on iRacing with some of the players on there?
One of the best ones I've had in a while was probably with Tommy Milner, the Corvette driver, last week in Joseph Newgarden's room, IndyCar. I could tell him and I were probably about the same speed. He got held up by some slower cars. I think he made a mistake, so he was behind me. But coming down to the last lap, the last half the track, basically, he ran me down, used the push to pass button, caught me. We split out the lap car, just kind of like the old Formula One. Who was that? Mika Hakkinen and someone else at Spa. But yeah, we split the lap car, and it was just a really memorable, a lot of fun battle. But also, I mean, some of the guys that impressed me, Will Power, just anytime he gets on and I'm racing against him, he seems to be the quickest out of anybody. I mean, he was almost a second up of the second place guy in Joseph Newgarden's room. Sage Karam's really quick on iRacing, whatever he's in.
He's a pro iRacer. He's so good.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very fast driver in real life too, but he gets an iRacing. He can compete against the guys who spend a lot of time on here. So those are two guys, and even Ron Capps. Ron Capps is known for racing his funny car, but he gets on. He can run a road course. He can run dirt, which I give him all the props. I think that's really cool that he shows that he can do more than just what he does racing his funny car. So there's a lot of people that have really stood out, but those are just a few.
Cool. Have you been watching any of the other iRacing? Have you watched the IndyCar races or the IMSA stuff they've been doing?
I have. I mean, I watched the whole IMSA race last week while I was doing some computer work. I had my second monitor up and I watched it. I think it's really well put together. Obviously, I've been watching the NASCAR stuff. I would love to be a part of the NASCAR races on Sunday, but I get it. Those are reserved for basically top-tier Cup drivers. The IndyCar races have been really cool. I think what stands out most to me is just the realism of all of it. I mean, I've heard from people who contact me saying, is this real racing? They don't really grasp the fact that it is virtual racing. They think that, they're tuning on to an old race that happened a couple of years ago. I mean, even my grandma texted me saying, what's on TV right now? And it was an iRacing race. So it is really cool to see how they bring everything together and make it so realistic. Some of the crashes obviously are going to happen, in the virtual world. It's so easy to, just wreck somebody. I mean, obviously you're not talking about real money here. You're talking about just a reset button. That's always going to be the case. But at the same time, even our Richmond race on Saturday night was really well put together, and there weren't many wrecks. So I think you're going to keep seeing it grow. And even when things go back to normal, I think you're going to see, weekday races on iRacing with a lot of top drivers, and especially when off season hits, you're going to see more races, and hopefully they will be televised.
Do you think it's probably a growth of that's going to be like a lot of drivers who've caught a bug now of iRacing? A lot of people have been turned on to it. And then like a lot of drivers like you now have the spotlight on you more so because of this form of racing?
I definitely think so. I mean, I think half of the top Cup drivers probably didn't own rigs, or they just didn't really use them very much. I mean, I know Kyle Busch for one, Jimmy Johnson for one. And since we started racing more, they've gotten these rigs, and I think you're going to continue to see them on, especially guys like Jimmy Johnson, who, made it very clear he wants to race Indy cars, and he has a full IndyCar simulator rig, which I know he's going to be using a lot. He probably has been using a lot. So I think you'll continue to see a lot of these guys use them over off season. And like I said, I think you're going to see races televised as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Just some of the ways that real racing has sort of seeped into iRacing, and what about like your relationship with your sponsors and things like that? Has that been something you've carried over into iRacing, or even are considering now you could have new partnerships because of iRacing? Yeah,
so I mean, with everything obviously happening right now, what we give our sponsors right now on iRacing is basically, just a thank you for your continued support. I have had several sponsors come on board just for the iRacing efforts. People like myself who, we race, it's our living. We have to get creative in ways we make a living. So iRacing is one way we can do that. And also streaming too, everything that I do is basically stream live now, same with guys like Connor Daly and a lot of, Landon Castle. A lot of guys are streaming on Twitch, which is one way to connect with our fans, but also connect with our sponsors and, continue to promote them. But yeah, I have brought several of my real world sponsors into iRacing. And I mean, even just the Saturday night race we had at Richmond, that got excess of 300,000 views, which for a virtual race that isn't actually on NBC or Fox, I think that's a lot of views on YouTube. So, it keeps the sponsors happy, and, it's just kind of an added incentive for them to stay with us during this hard time, and also give them some spotlight as well.
Do you have fun with it though? I mean, because like you had some of those, what was it? You had the retro Target Chip Ganassi car, but you placed your sponsors on it, and I thought that was really clever with the placement. Do you have fun with things like that and making these liveries for your cars at least?
I have a lot of fun. So, I mean, I do my own liveries on iRacing. I probably spend too much time, but I mean, that's one thing that is really cool. You know, like you mentioned, I did take an old IndyCar design. I mean, Alexander Zanardi was, a hero of mine. He is a hero of mine, and that car is just an iconic car. So, I figured how cool it would be to see that on a current day IndyCar with some of my sponsors. So, I mean, it's something I mocked up last week, and I've been running it ever since. So, it is really a lot of fun. And, even we had Jacob Construction on the car a couple weeks ago in Bristol. And I went to them and I said, "What do you guys want to see?" And they shot me some designs, and we kind of labeled the car as just old school retro design, simple, but they were happy with it. So it's really cool. It doesn't take much for me to design it on the computer and then bring it to real life, and for them to see it on television or just even on YouTube, it's really cool for them.
Oh, that's great, man. And I was going to ask you as well, like, we've seen a lot of fantasy iRacing stuff. I know, especially Thursday nights, the Dinner with Racers guys do some ridiculous. Like, I watched a lot more than I care to admit of their 12 hours of Sebring, where they did what was it, trophy trucks, Indy cars, the Acura LMP2 car, one guy in a sprint car. It was ridiculous, but it was awesome. And have you been doing any of that stuff? Like, I heard. Dale Jr. said he was doing something crazy at the Nürburgring the other night. They were doing a crazy car.
I was with him. Yeah, Skip Barber. It was like 1:00 my time, so it had been 2:00 Dale Jr. time. But yeah, we were running a Skip Barber series car on iRacing at Nürburgring, which I followed him into the lobby. I saw he was online. I clicked his lobby, and luckily I got in. So it was really cool to play with him. But yeah, I mean, I've been doing some crazy stuff as well. I mean, a couple of nights ago, I was on it was like a half-mile track in an Indy car, and I was racing guys in Pro 2 trucks, Camping World trucks, legend cars, just silly things, and even some figure eights. I mean, it is fun. There's the arcade side of it, like that, where you can kind of go out and have a lot of fun. But then again, there's a simulator side where I've been playing mostly, actually as a tool. But at the same time, you can have a lot of fun with it and just have some of these fun, goofy races. I mean, even last week we ran the Pro 2 light trucks at Watkins Glen, which was a lot of fun. Kind of mimics the Robbie Gordon Stadium Truck Series, which is a lot of fun. So I have a lot of fun with it, but at the same time, you can take it very seriously. But opposite angle, you can have just a lot of fun with it and not take it very serious. So there's times when I take it very seriously, and there's times when I just kind of go on here to have fun and blow off steam.
So you mentioned the Robbie Gordon trucks. I read a tweet the other day that his guys are trying to get him a simulator. And I'm so excited. I would love to see Robbie Gordon get kicked out of games for wrecking people. I love the guy so much, man.
So quickly.
He's so great.
He would be one of the first people out. If somebody wrecked him, he would come back on a track and just wreck somebody else. And you have seen a lot of that too. I mean, one word I heard all the time when I was playing with Will Power was wanker. Somebody would make him upset. He'd just call him a wanker. I probably heard it 10 times in half an hour racing with him in Indianapolis a couple weeks ago. But it's a lot of fun, and it is really cool being in direct communication with people you're racing, because in real life you don't have that. So you can use it as a tool to learn too what not to do when we go back to racing in real life, especially some of these IndyCar guys who are on the rookie year. I just read an article with basically Oliver Askew and Will Power, and I don't know if you guys saw what he did this weekend. He made a mistake and he took ownership for it. But, rather him make that on iRacing than in real life when we go back racing in a month or two. So it is really cool to be connected with everybody while you're racing and be able to chat with them and tell them what they did wrong or tell them what they did right. Even today, James Davison was kind of coaching me around Road Atlanta in an F3 car, because I had never driven it at Road Atlanta. And he was watching my car camera live, and he was kind of coaching me what gears to be in, just where I should be lifting, picking up the throttle. And it's really cool in that aspect too.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about different tracks. So, I really like the IndyCar series because they're going to do a driver vote track, any track they want, and we're all pretty certain it's going to be Bathurst.
I can tell you what it's going to be, probably.
Yeah. So, what would you want it to be? So say you got to pick any track for NASCAR to go on. We'll say one for NASCAR, one for IndyCar. What track would you pick? And it can't be one they go to now.
Either that's tough. There's 3 of them: Spa, full Nürburgring, or Bathurst.
Bathurst in a cup car. I feel like Bathurst in a cup car wouldn't be that crazy because a supercar is not too dissimilar from like what the apparently what the Gen 7 Cup car is supposed to be. So I could see that actually working out pretty well. But I don't know, Spa on a Cup car would be crazy. It's like the
Spa,
long.
Yeah, we ran Spa in a Cup car a couple weeks ago on just a fun hosted lobby, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of chaos. But at the same time, the track really feels like it's meant for the car.
Wow. And what about so IndyCar? Would you like? So you think you know what it's going to be? What is it going to be?
I don't know if I have liberty to say. Let's just say a lot of drivers are hoping for Spa.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because I think didn't Kart go there at one time? Didn't Champ Car race there?
I'm not sure.
No, I think it was Assen, the other Belgian track. I think maybe they didn't go to Spa because they went to Europe like weirdly in the early 2000s for a little bit. They did some races over there.
Yeah, they did. I know that they. I don't think they ever went to Spa, but that's a track where I wish I could have seen those cars at Spa.
Well, we'll never forget that crash at, what was it, Raceway Germany and the Driven movie, because that's based on real life, right? So, that crash where everybody went into the lake and they had to save everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't even seen that movie, so
you need to watch it.
You just ruined it for me.
You have to watch it.
Oh, spoilers.
If you ever have 5 minutes away from iRacing, check that movie out.
All right, I will.
I bought the video game off eBay when we were talking about it on our last podcast, and it is absolutely horrendous. Like it is. It's basically an arcade game optimized for the PlayStation 2, and you just, as soon as you turn, you just spin out. Like it's terrible. But you know what? It was well worth the $14 I spent on it. So
yeah,
just
as long as you're having fun.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you guys have fun with it.
But when I know like racing's obviously off right now, and we have no idea when we're going to get back. But I'll ask you your opinion on this. Like, how do you feel about going to a racetrack without fans? If that is the what ends up happening, which seems to be what's going to happen for the first few weeks.
I mean, it basically is going to happen. It does hurt people like me who are in my shoes because a lot of my sponsors come on just for the hospitality side of being at the track and, inviting customers to the track for customer experience. So, there's going to be teams that do lose sponsorship over it. I'll probably lose sponsorship over it. But at the same time, the team owners are willing to work with us, and especially Rick Ware Racing and BJ McLeod, they know that things won't be back to normal. I did have a conversation with BJ McLeod and Rick Ware this morning, and it sounds like, they're going to limit how many people are at the track working per car. Sounds like there's not going to be more than 4 or 5 people per car, which it's not going to be any different for us on that aspect. But for some of the big teams who do bring, upward to 10, 12 people per car, it's going to hurt them for sure. And BJ even told me that, he'll probably not even have me at the track when I'm not doing anything, which is something I'm not used to. I'm used to going to the track and helping out, whether it's push a car, whether it's just hanging out, showing good support to my team. He said you probably won't be welcome to the track, not even by him, just by NASCAR. NASCAR won't want you to the track unless you're going to be driving. So, show up 10 minutes before practice, get ready, have your suit on probably when you come, and jump in the car and go and debrief, and you're going to leave right away. So it's going to be different. I think you're going to see one-day shows, trucks on Friday, Xfinity on Saturday, Cup on Sunday. I've seen rumors of no practice. I've seen rumors of no qualifying, which isn't going to hurt us, but there are teams who don't have any points. Sam Hunt Racing and Xfinity is one of them. They don't have any points, so they need to qualify in, and they are planning on racing this year yet. So if they don't, if they don't have qualifying, he's going to get sent home, which is really unfortunate for them. So yeah, I mean, a lot of things are still fluid right now. I heard we're going to go back racing basically next month, almost exactly a month from now in Miami. And then I heard something else. And then I heard maybe Darlington. Then I heard Charlotte. So I think in the next week or two, we're going to have a more clear definition of when we're going to go racing. It's going to be without fans. I know that. And yeah, it is going to hurt guys like myself, but there is nothing you can do. And I think that, NASCAR will do everything they can to keep the drivers and the crew safe during that time.
Yeah, I think it's important you said that because that's a side of this sport that so many people don't understand. And it's tough for James and I to talk to people about it because we're obviously on the other side of it. We've been in the garage with you and other guys, and to tell them what goes on, at small teams, you don't want to kind of, say too much, but I like hearing that, you get to hear that side of it. You're saying that this is going to hurt those small teams, and that's something a lot of people probably haven't even considered. So, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it definitely is tough. It's unfortunate, but we are all in the same boat. Like I said, even the team owners recognize that things won't be the same. We're probably not going to get the same dollar amount that we were shooting before all this started happening. Whether it's X amount per race, we might have to decrease that by whatever percent. And it's going to hurt everybody involved. But at the same time, yeah, we're all in the same boat. It's not like one team has an advantage here. Everybody's in the same boat. So it's unfortunate that everything's happened here. But, I think just the way NASCAR's responded and IndyCar's responded, and I think we're going to go back racing in the next month. It's positive.
So for you moving forward, what do you do within this next month for you to kind of stay focused? Obviously, you have iRacing, but also, like you said, you got to work on that marketing side and build relationships to get sponsorship money to get back on track.
Yeah, I am still trying to build new relationships, bring new partners on board. It's been really tough these last month and a half because everything, even if the business isn't affected by this, even if their numbers haven't gone down, they have closed off a lot of their marketing budget. So a lot of people haven't given me definite answers. There have been a few companies I've been talking to that are interested, but they're not willing to make a decision until they know which way the economy is going. And I think in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have a clear definition of where this is going. If it's going to get better, or if it's going to continue to stay where it is right now. So I think, all I can do is continue to work on that on my end. It hasn't been easy because I haven't been getting anywhere really, which is why I've been doing a lot of iRacing, a lot of virtual racing. But I think in the next month things will get better, and we at least will go racing, which will help out. And I think when we do go back racing, the views and the TV views and everything is going to be very, very high, which is one positive to this.
Nice. I think so too. I think NASCAR is probably going to be the first sport back, or at least auto racing in general will be the first sport back. Because we've seen countries in Europe lift restrictions now, and Australia and New Zealand, and so it looks like we're on the path to go back racing. But I think it's going to take a long time for us to get back to where we were before with 80,000 people at one event. But I think a lot of people are saying I'd rather have it with no fans than not have it at all. I think at least we'll have something to do, and at least get some sort of normalcy, which is kind of what we were expecting from iRacing. Like, I watched it the first few weeks. I was like, man, this is great. And for me, like, I will admit the novelty's kind of worn off a little bit of it being on TV.
And it's not just you; it's everybody that's participating in it. It was great for the first week or two. It's something to watch. But at the same time, now it's to the point where it doesn't replace the real thing. It is out of everything, out of like the NBA and the football video games and soccer and whatever, it's the closest you'll get to the real thing, but it isn't the real thing. And, the novelty, like you said, is wearing off. And, I think in 2 or 3 weeks, people are going to really want the real thing back. And I think that's about when we will be ready to go back.
If anything, to take a good positive out of that, I think out of this is other than obviously the e-racing NASCAR division, the Pro Invitational, there's all these side races, so many races on Sundays and Monday nights, a Tuesday night, and having access to like a channel through your Twitch. I think that's even better because like for you, it's like helped you get to a point where you get to show off your skills as far as like bringing something to the fans and having something to present to people.
Yeah, of course. And, when we go back to real racing, I still will participate in these iRaces, and, I may not be able to have my sponsors and fans at the track. But at the same time, I come home, whether it's a Monday or a Sunday race, I'll be home Monday. Then I can have a virtual race on Monday and Tuesday and hang out with these guys on Twitch. So yeah, it's definitely shed a light in a new area. I never thought that I would be streaming some of these races live on Twitch. I even went out and bought a separate TV so I could talk to these guys when I'm actually racing. I can look over now, and I bought a webcam. So it's not something I ever thought I did, but it's definitely opened up some new possibilities here, and I'll continue to use them.
Awesome. So yeah, man,
yeah.
Just iRacing for days. But I read Jenna Fryer's article yesterday about how iRacing's kind of gotten to a point where she said it like the NASCAR one's just not fun anymore because like obviously we had the Kyle Larson incident, which we want to ask you about, but the Bubba Wallace thing with losing the sponsor, and she's like, it's become like real life and it's supposed to be fun. She's like, I wish they had just kept it fun, and like the Euro Series is giving out points.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I mean,
Yeah.
This is supposed to be just for fun. It's a way that we can keep our sponsors happy to, while everything's going on. Obviously, it's a good way to keep our sponsors happy. It's a good way to bring some new sponsors on board who might not have the budget to go racing in real life. They might not have $25,000 per weekend to spend in real life, but maybe they can do, whether it's $500 per race or $2,500 per race, depending on the driver, on iRacing. It's a good way to bring new people involved and keep them involved. But yeah, I mean, there has been a lot of negative light in virtual racing, and I think the most important thing, I mean, at least on my end, I understand and I realize this is just for fun. It's one way to keep our sponsors happy, but it isn't real racing. I don't think they should reward real points for this. I think that you're going to have guys who make bonehead moves because they know they can just press the reset button. So I think that some people will be kicking themselves in the butt after all this is over and see what they've done. Like the Euro NASCAR series. I don't think they should be rewarding points, but that's up to them.
Yeah, and the other thing I was going to ask you, sorry, it just slipped my mind. Do you think that it would be cool if they brought in pro iRacers into these races and let them mingle? Because a lot of people say the on-track product would be better if it was pro racers, because a lot of the Cup guys literally bought simulators 3 weeks ago and are terrible, but they're in it because they're full-time Cup drivers and people will watch if they're in it. How would you feel if they brought in like 10 pro iRacers?
So guys like Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, I mean, Denny Hamlin's been around for a while. So I feel like Denny Hamlin's naturally really good at iRacing. He probably could compete if he went to the pro iRacing, that series, the Coca-Cola series, whatever it's called. I think he could be competitive there with a little bit of time. But like Kyle Busch is a good example. He was horrible in Miami, the first race on iRacing. And he spent a lot of time just practicing, hiring some of these pro drivers to coach him on iRacing. He has gotten really good. So I think that, maybe a month ago when they had the first race in Miami, some of these pro guys on iRacing would have probably just destroyed most of the field. But since then, I think that the level of competition has gotten a lot better out of these guys because they've taken it more seriously. And you will have guys who just still don't take it very seriously. I mean, no offense, but I think one of them is Clint Boyer. I don't think he puts in the time. I don't think he even has a simulator. I think that's why he's been using the NBC simulator every time. I think that he gets it. It's just really for fun. So he doesn't put a lot of practice laps in. So I think if you were to replace some of those guys with the guys like, Ray Alfalfa and some of those guys, I think that they would be able to mix it up. I don't know if they would necessarily, just destroy the competition, but they would be up there in the top 10 for sure. And I think it would make probably for better racing. But at the same time, you'd have more people watching if you got Dale Jr. rather than some of these pro iRacing guys who nobody really knows of. So it would be fun to have maybe a fun race with, half iRacing pros, half actual Cup guys, and see where they stack up. And I think that's something hopefully they are going to do before all this is back to normal and they have the opportunity to do it. Hopefully they do.
Yeah, hopefully, because that would definitely be a very interesting race. It'd be interesting to see what kind of competitive advantage the iRacing people or just the pros over there could put on the actual NASCAR pros.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So there was one thing that's circulating on Twitter about a William Byron bounty, the Bill bounty. We need to let iRacers come in to beat William Byron, and then when they beat him, he's kicked out because he's too good. I
didn't see that. I know that he is really good. I knew that these last couple races were going to be between him and Timmy Hill, and Garrett Smithley's been strong, but yeah, William Byron has seemed to be undefeated. It's crazy to see that because he is just, he could go on any of these pro iRacing races in the Coca-Cola series and probably be just as competitive, top 5, top 10. So he's as good as a sim racer as he is some of these other guys who are just strictly pro sim racers. So I would love to see a bounty between him and some other guys because I think that it would just spice some things up.
Alrighty. So the last thing I'll ask you is, do you want to plug anything, any of your sponsors? Just list them off. Do a whole Victory Lane interview because we want to get you guys as much exposure to all 8 people that watch this. So.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some sponsors who've really stayed loyal through this. Insurance King has been on board some of the cars, and they're going to be on board some more of the cars. Just on iRacing, and as we go back racing in real life, they'll be on board. Jacob Construction, which is a sponsor of Rick Ware Racing and our Cup team, they were on my car a couple weeks ago, and they'll continue to be on our cars going forward on iRacing and in real life. Trim Techs, Drop Out Products and Lemons of Love. They were on my car last weekend in Talladega when I ran at Daytona when I ran the charity race. And then they were on again at Richmond. And we've always tried to incorporate our real life partners. The Boss, the Builders Outlet Superstore, they're on board some of our cars. We're just going to continue to keep them on board and hopefully do some more. D-Tech Marine Products, they're on board. And those are the core group of partners we have right now. We'll continue to hopefully add more going forward. But those are the partners that have really stuck with us and told us that, when things go back to normal, we will still back you. So thank you to those guys. Your support means a lot, and we'll do our best to keep promoting you guys during this time, and hopefully things go back to normal soon and we can promote you in the real life. That's
awesome, man. And thanks so much for talking to us today. We really appreciate it. I know you've had to take 40 minutes away from iRacing, which I'm sure is not great. Now you're not going to be as good, but get right back to it. And how can people get in touch with you, follow you on Twitch and things like that?
Yeah, so my Twitch name is Josh_Bilicki. Turns out that somebody actually took my name, just Josh Bilicki, which I thought was kind of odd. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all Josh Bilicki. Just shoot me a message if you guys want to race, whether you guys have iRacing, whether you guys just want to give me a follow. I'm always really open and try to communicate with my fans as much as I can. So if you guys have iRacing, let's jump on. I'm always in open lobbies, just no passwords. I try never to be. And I really enjoy you guys taking the time to talk to me. Had a lot of fun.
No problem, man. So enjoy the rest of your quarantine. Hopefully it won't last much longer and we can get back to real racing and some sort of normalcy in life. So
hopefully that comes soon. It definitely feels like it's been 6 months since I've actually seen a real racetrack, but I definitely get it. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everybody's watching this staying safe, and hopefully, hopefully things get back to normal sooner than later.
I just want to get to a point where I don't feel like a character in Mad Max when I go to the grocery store. I just want to be able to go to the grocery store.
You sneeze or you cough not even because you're sick, just because you have a tickle. People look at you weird. So hopefully things change, and hopefully things go back to normal soon.
All right, thanks a lot, Josh. We'll talk to you later, man. Take care.
Good. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Take care, Josh.